when you want to learn Tolkien's Elvish languages, you have to ask yourselves a few questions beforehand. Basically, what's my reason for learning them? What's my motivation? What's my end goal as well? But if you're new to this whole world of Tolkien's conlangs, so constructed languages, you might be asking yourself, what even are the possible reasons for learning Elvish languages from the Legendarium? And so that's what I want to help you with today. So reason number one for learning Tolkien's languages is acquiring a tangible piece of the Legendarium. So imagine that you're a huge The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit fan, right? And so down the line you decide to just buy a piece of merch, just any piece of merch that sort of caught your eye, right? And suddenly you have a physical representation of, this fictional story. Same thing with the Elvish languages from the Legendarium. When you're speaking them, learning them, it's like you're acquiring a physical thing, out of this fictional story. Because when you speak the language or you write it, it suddenly becomes real. It exists within the real world. Same thing with merch. So if you're a huge fan of anything regarding Tolkien's Legendarium, it's a no-brainer. Basically, one day you're gonna stumble across Elvish languages and you're going to want to learn them, for the same reason that you would get a piece of merchandise from The Lord of the Rings. And I think that's beautiful. Reason number two is getting more into the mind and the creative process of one of the greatest writers in history. So if you're a big fan of Mr. Tolkien's writings of any kind, then you're probably, a huge fan of his creative process. I really like this idea of auteurs. So basically, people that create full art pieces, complicated ones by themselves, or just, bring their vision fully to life. It's often thrown around in the world of filmmaking, but basically Mr. Tolkien was basically an auteur as well. He had those different pieces of the Legendarium, the story, the characters, the languages, and he brought all of it together with a unified vision. And if you're a fan of one part of this vision, for example the story, then I'm sure that you would just basically really enjoy learning the languages and exploring another part of the Legendarium this way, and sort of getting more into the mind of Mr. Tolkien because of that, and exploring his creative process, Reason number three is getting a new flavor within your language learning. So if you're wanting to learn Elvish languages, then you're probably also just an avid language learner in general, right? Probably. And Mr. Tolkien oftentimes compared learning various languages to tasting different wines. Each one has its own flavor. And Tolkien combined his inspirations to create his various languages, right? For example, Quenya is heavily inspired by Finnish, and Sindarin by Welsh, old British languages, this sort of thing. So learning Elvish, now that it's been created by Mr. Tolkien and expanded by the community, sort of gives you this, new flavor. Sure, it's a fictional language, but it's still made with a purpose and a story within this fictional world. So if you're really like the etymology of various languages, or the sound of them, the phonology, the rules, then Elvish is a new flavor that you can add to your collection. And finally, reason number four, which is more down to earth, is just having a secret language to use between your friends. Imagine you're at school, anywhere else, and you have this fictional language, this secret language that has this rich history, not some, made up one quickly on the spot by somebody else. It has this rich history, either Sindari in Quenya, maybe even other languages from the Legendarium, and you can use that as a secret language that nobody else will understand, basically ever. Sure, it might be a little bit difficult to learn, but especially if you're just focused on speaking, you can get the basics relatively quickly. So I think that's just a great little reason to maybe explore Elvish languages. So that's basically it. I'm sure that you have your own reasons for wanting to learn Elvish languages, mainly Sindarin or Quenya, but these are the ones that I came up with and that I really condone, you can say. Now, this is the first video of what I call the Elvish month, where for 4 weeks I will basically explore all the different aspects, difficulties, possibilities of learning Mr. Tolkien's Elvish languages, mainly Sindarin or Quenya as well. So this is the first video, just the introduction for somebody that wants to start learning these languages. So tune in every day for the Elvish month, or check out the playlist right here if you're watching later. Now, I hope that I helped make up your mind a little bit, but if you're absolutely sure about learning Elvish languages, I have full courses on Sindarin, Quenya, and even the writing system, Tengwar, inside of my community, which is the first link in the description. So join that and I'll see you there.